The Philadelphia Eagles are your 2024 NFC East champions and have officially locked up the number 2 seed in the NFC postseason, beating the Dallas Cowboys yesterday afternoon at home 41-7. But Michael Parsons says if you take away the scoreboard, the game was rather close outside of a handful of plays. We're going to break down this game. We're going to break down what it means that the Eagles are officially locked into the number 2 seed. Saquon gets over the 2,000 rushing yards threshold yesterday. Game is meaningless next week against the Giants. Should they let him go for it? He's about 100 yards short of Dickerson's all-time rushing record. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee, Jalen Hurts, that and much, much more. The Sixers got another win over the weekend, Scotty. 8-3 in the month in December. I believe, 9-3 over their last 12 games now. About a half game out of that final play-in spot right now before we head into the new year. So things are turning in the right direction there. Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show, guys. If you're new to the channel, make sure to do yourself a favor. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at DSM_media. The YouTube channel is the best and only spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with us and be interactive like my man D-Rab is doing right now. So subscribe, like, share with your friends, family, any other Philly sports fans that you know of. My man, happy Monday. Happy Victory Monday. Could be the final one of the regular season. We'll see how next week plays out because Drew Lock and the Giants look like a brand new football team all of a sudden. So next week could be a little tricky playing themselves right out of that number 1 overall draft pick in next year's class. A lot of fun to talk about in the NFC East division today, man. Happy Monday, brother.
Yeah, happy Monday, man. The Giants decided to grab W's on Sunday for whatever reason. Wanted to come out and ball out. And you get the incredible inquisitive mind of Michael Parsons with his latest comments after the Eagles-Cowboys game. Tune into his podcast, man. You're going to get a ton of insight into some good football talk. No controversy, no drama, no excuses on that podcast, man. Quality stuff for Michael Parsons and the Cowboys as a whole, man. As you mentioned, it's Victory Monday. Hell of a performance by Cooper Rush and the gang yesterday coming into Philly and just stealing all the thunder from the Birds before the playoffs, man. Just like Micah predicted. Man, I'm with you. It's always fun, man. I think this year we almost didn't get to enjoy the ass whooping.
We didn't
to Dallas the way.
No, we didn't.
And so I do want to make it rain on them a little bit. The Commanders have stolen our attention, for a little bit this season. Yeah. They're annoying. They're trying to outclass the Cockroaches, and they're doing it this year because the Cockroaches have been quiet. But
they have up until that ass. They've stayed quiet. They've stayed in their lane most of this year. Once Dak went down officially, and once they went on that horrendous losing streak. Before this game, they won 4 or 5, and they were still already eliminated from postseason contention. That's how bad things were going in Jerry World. But they remained quiet up until a day or two before game day. Then the Cowboys, content creators and other people I see on Twitter and social media would just start putting out these little hypothetical tweets about we have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever, and the Eagles aren't this, and wait till this, and wait till that, and then they get thumped again for the second time this year. We didn't get to enjoy it, obviously, when one of the starting quarterbacks for either team doesn't play, which has felt like it's happened quite a while since it's been Dak Prescott versus Jalen Hurts the last couple of years. We haven't gotten that head-to-head matchup as much as we might like to and keep it a rivalry. It still felt good to do that and to clinch at home in the Kelly Greens against that team with that owner in attendance. It was very, very funny and ironic to do it in that fashion. But to Brian's point, I see him in the comments. Tanner McKee, man, comes in, throws 2 tutties. Kenny Pickett goes down with the ribs at halftime, of course, because we took his passing props at for the game. He throws 135 passing yards in the first half. We needed 175. He doesn't play the rest of the game. And I get it. I knew he wasn't going to come back out, especially given the scoreboard and everything like that.
You knew.
But Look, man, we got a lot to talk about, but I think the storyline with this one has to be Saquon Barkley, and he's been the storyline for probably 85% of the season when it comes to Eagles recaps, but 31 carries, 167 rushing yards in this one against the Dallas Cowboys. He is just about 100 yards shy of Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record. However, because the Packers were unable to go into Minnesota and get a win last night, Week 18 becomes meaningless for the Eagles. And it becomes this kind of thought of, just rest everybody. We have bigger goals, bigger aspirations in mind. And although it would be one of the coolest things ever as an Eagles fan to watch Saquon against the Giants break and then hold the all-time rushing record, we would be probably literally vomiting if he were to get injured in the process of doing so before we get into the postseason. But Saquon Barkley yesterday, man, I'm texting you back and forth. You're texting me like this dude is unfucking believable. Even when he's not picking up chunk yardage, the 3, 4, 5 yard runs, Scotty, feel like they kill teams. And I know this was a meaningless game, but he's just chipping away. The same thing he's done all year. And then boom, here comes the 20 yarder. Here comes the 15 yarder. Here comes the 15 yarder. And he just does it consistently. And if you can take one thing away from that game yesterday, it is the fact that you were able to see this Eagles offense with backup quarterbacks in play be able to run the ball effectively like we were hoping they were able to do so.
Yeah, definitely. Real quick, man. Happy birthday, Terry.
Happy birthday, Terry.
To the show, faithful watcher, faithful viewer. Faithful commenter. Happy birthday, Terry. Hope you are enjoying Victory Monday. You can enjoy it with us today, Terry, even though you're not.
I see that. I see
probably
going to
lose.
I see that profile picture.
That's a joke, Dylan, because I got that autographed Jalen Hurts photo copy for Terry for Christmas. So that was from the DSM squad, by the way, man. So Terry is enjoying that on her birthday. She got the new pic on the YouTube channel, and happy birthday, Terry. But no, to your point, man, about Saquon Barkley. It is when you're watching him, and especially in this game against the Cowboys. I don't care who's on the field. It is incredible to just watch him surpass 2,000 rushing yards. To get into that legendary group of people. I believe it's eight different running backs over time that has been able to hit that mark. And it was just incredible watching him, man. I texted you and I was getting like literal chills watching this man run the football, because it's like you said, he just chip away at the armor all throughout the game. And then by the time you get towards halfway of the third quarter, man, that defense is wore down, and he just starts breaking them up chunk by chunk. Yeah. There's a few plays where you're like, damn, if he just stays on his feet, he's probably gone. And so like that just shows me as well, he can take it to the house at any moment, man, behind this offensive line with his playmaking ability, with the effort that the guys on the outside give, blocking as well. The guys like Smitty, like AJ that are out there giving effort. It takes all of those guys, man. And I do like the way Saquon has approached it, man. It's the offensive line as well. We've sat here each and every season and we've watched guys like Miles Sanders go back there and get 1,200 rushing yards. Guys like DeAndre Swift go out there and break 1,000 rushing yards for the first time in his career. And now you get to see a legitimate Hall of Fame talent behind a legitimate Hall of Fame level offensive line. And now the offensive linemen will start to be rewarded maybe the way that they should be, right? You start to gain respect for all of these guys. But yeah, I do want to specifically shout out Saquon, because it is incredible to watch him play. And to your point, what you were getting at, should he play this weekend? Should he not? At the end of the day, man, if Nick Sirianni, if Saquon, if they decide to go out there and try to get that record, I'm not gonna get on. I
don't think anybody's going to be mad.
I'm not going to complain, but if he gets injured, everybody's head's on the plate.
Yeah, you're going to be clenched. You're going to be clenched every time he gets.
That's on Howie. That's on Sirianni. That's on Kellen. That's on everybody, man.
Top on.
And God forbid, bro, like not even Saquon get injured in that game. One of your offensive linemen, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, like even Cam, these guys are all integral part of this offensive line. And so, like, I I don't know, man. I just can't fathom.
I can't
fathom losing an integral part of our team in a meaningless game against the New York Giants, man. I just can't fathom it.
I'm going to tell you right now, he's not going to play, and the starters are not going to play. And I think personally, you found that out yesterday, mid-game, not mid-game, end of game. The second he crossed the 2,000 threshold, they yanked him. And my point is, if you had that in mind that you were going to allow him, now maybe the Green Bay game plays a factor, right? Because now it's like, all right, he's 100 short. Let's see what Green Bay does. Maybe we could need next week for the possible 1 seed. Then it's a different ball game. Maybe I'm wrong, but there was a few minutes left in this game. He had just picked up a first down. They could have given the ball to him 3-4 more times on that possession specifically if they were really trying to get him that to that number. And once they yanked him and they yanked the starters, which was the fine move, it was the right move. I think it told me that Saquon Barkley is not going to be suiting up and chasing the record, but it tells me a lot about Saquon Barkley himself. It tells me a lot about this team as a whole, man, to where, like, if he really wanted it, it's like the same with any star. It's the same with, when we talk about guys in the NBA wanting to play and different things like that. Saquon Barkley would be playing if that's the goal he had in mind. That's not the goal. That's not the ultimate goal this year. So there's other things to keep in mind, and it sucks, but it's whatever. I did want to come back to this comment by D-Rad, though, because I do think it's important. It was the theme of our pregame show, bouncing back and responding. And I think to your point about watching him just chip away against this Cowboys defense. Look, this Cowboys defense wasn't good all year. They couldn't stop a nosebleed all year on the ground. It's not it's not a surprise that they were able to run the ball. But to anyone out there that had questions or just a little voice in the back of their head watching that second half against Washington, where a backup quarterback had to come in mid-game and Washington was able to stuff Saquon and get him in the backfield for losses of yards, it shut all that up immediately, right? Like just another even though it's not a great defense and a rush defense specifically, this was Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee. And the Eagles went out there and said, here's the ball 30 times, try to stop him. And he just popped off for about 5.5 yards a carry. Again, bullies doing whatever they want. You know what's about to happen to you, and you cannot stop it. So, that's why I went back. Yes, I was thinking about the Washington game a little bit and what we were taking away from it. And it's just why that game meant absolutely nothing to me, man. The fact that, people actually took away something of value from Kenny Pickett having to come in mid-game and how Washington was able to adjust a little bit and they could do this and they stopped this. It means nothing because they got a full weekend and then Saquon Barkley ran fucking wild and is on pace to break the record if he wanted to get it. So it was definitely a bounce back spot. Smitty, bounce back spot.
Yeah.
$120, 2 tutties. Big time.
Yeah, no doubt. CGJ, 2 interceptions, pick 6. Guys stepped in and did what they were supposed to in this one, man. To the Kenny Pickett and the Tanner McKee conversation, man. I have to ask, what did Tanner McKee do that was so much better than Kenny Pickett? I need to know. I'm
glad you brought this up because it's not really something I wanted to argue with people with because I know people are going to troll and there are people on social media talking about it. You're 1,000% correct. The touchdown pass to A.J. Brown was a beautiful back shoulder throw towards the boundary. Absolutely. It was a great throw.
Absolutely.
3 for 4, 2 touchdown passes. Have it yourself a day, Tanner McKee. But to your point, dog, Kenny Pickett was 10 of 15 for 145 and a touchdown in this game. And people are acting like Tanner McKee came in and just saved the I don't. It's very odd to watch how people react to Tanner McKee.
Just turning it's almost like turning Kenny Pickett into I don't want to say a villain, but this is a childhood Eagles fan that is getting to step up, play the Cowboys, score multiple touchdowns in the game, play some pretty solid football, man. And we're just gonna throw him under the bus. It's just odd to me.
Right.
If you're mad about the draft compensation,
with broken ribs, mind you.
Right, playing through broken ribs, being tough.
Hit after hit until it was.
It's so you know what it is? It's so backwards of Philly fans to not like this guy who is a like hometown fan type of guy, plays through the broken ribs. It's so odd for them to not like him.
This is the right take. Both quarterbacks played well yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. Because this isn't a shit on Tanner session either. I'm glad that we have 3 quarterbacks that can sling the thing. But yeah, Kenny Pickett, man. If you're mad about the draft compensation, be mad at Howie Roseman, not Kenny Pickett. He didn't trade for himself, man. But yeah, I was impressed with both quarterbacks yesterday. I was impressed with the offense as a whole. Saquon, obviously, just a fucking monster. Yeah. We were sitting there looking at his carries yesterday. You remember going into that game, like I think it was at like 19 and a half or some shit. Maybe 23 and a half. I could be wrong either way there, but it was definitely not sitting at 30 and a half carries. So he ended up with 31 carries yesterday, which is what you would like to see with a backup quarterback. That is ideal when you are in a must-win situation. I want to take you to the defense, man. Looking at their performance, I won't lie to you. I was pretty annoyed to start the game on the first 2 drives, I think. You get the pick 6 and it's like, but then they go down and they drive and they score 7 immediately. Was, right? What's up?
This was the Rams game.
Yeah.
The Rams went right down the field on the opening drive. We forced a fumble. They got the ball back, went right down the field, scored a touchdown, and then they almost did nothing else the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it reminded me. Because I'm with you, dude. I'm watching like
the first 2 drives.
Yeah, like we get the pick 6, but then they had already had the ball basically across midfield when they threw the pick 6. Then like Cooper Rush gets the ball right back and goes right down, throws touchdown. And I'm texting you like, man, like nut up, bro. Like what are we doing? And then I don't think that Dallas really crossed midfield again for the most part. So the defense came to play after those 2 possessions.
Absolutely. So that's what I kind of wanted to ask you. Like just seeing how the defense bounced back. I know I saw a bunch of people on Eagles Twitter, which shame on them, man. On there talking about, is this 2023 again? Is the defense falling apart?
Like, I'm sorry, bro.
Where are you at with the defense? That's what I'm asking you, Dylan. Where are you at with this defense, man? Going into
there should be no fuck. Look, not that yesterday you played Cooper Rush and Rico Dowdle, right, and Turpin, right? Like you didn't play. He didn't play a top 5 unit. Okay, that's for certain. But like. Again, I don't take too much away from the Washington game because, like we were talking about, like they starting at midfield at the 40 every possession and not converting with turnovers that the defense gave the offense in that week. Like, yeah, the defense had a terrible 4th quarter against Washington. For some reason, that let people's minds forget about the performance in Cincinnati and in LA and against Washington the first time and in Baltimore. Like people forgot all about those because of one awful quarter. And then you come out yesterday, they gave up 7 fucking points and scored a touchdown themselves. They canceled out themselves. Anything that Dallas did yesterday. How in what world could you be like questioning or upset about this defense?
A team that just beat our arch nemesis Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's an offense that was able to score on the Bucs. But we are scared, and this brings me to my holistic point. Do you have anything else on this game, on the defense, anything here? Oh, I did want to actually throw this, but I do have some questions holistically for you here moving forward. But Jake Elliott, man, somebody pointed this out on Twitter. I keep saying this like every show. I got to get better. Somebody on X, go find it. Type in Jake Elliott Eagles, you'll find it. Nonetheless, he kicked all the kickoffs yesterday, made all 7 of his kicks in the game.
You know,
any type of correlation.
I didn't even pay attention that he did the kickoffs yesterday.
He did, man. No Braden Man. It was Jake Elliott, and he made all of his kicks yesterday. Extra points. I think he had 2 or 3 field goals in the game, something like that. Ended up with 7 kicks.
2. Yep. So, yeah, that's huge, man. Especially at this point in the season. Especially now that we know what seed we have. Getting him right is going to be humongous because, like I said, it changes everything you're trying to do offensively. It puts Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore in a weird position. Like normally, especially if we're talking Super Bowl, NFC Championship, close game. And we get to the opponent's, 35-yard line, normally that's a spot where you can say, okay, let's take points.
Yeah.
If Jake's not right and it's 4th and 4, you're in a weird predicament now. And if you don't get it, people are going to. So if he can get somewhat right, like if Jake can start making things, being solid from 55 and under, right? Like I'm not going to ask for 58 yarders in the postseason this year, but if Jake can get right from like 54, 55 or less, then I feel a whole lot better about the special teams unit as a whole and him this playoff run for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It gives you a sense of confidence, man.
Yeah.
When
I don't hate it, man.
Knock it down. Yeah, I feel I get
know.
it. I do. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not making the
Scotty.
decision.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not making the decision because I don't know. Like I do get it. It's a chance of a lifetime, man. And if he plays, he will break it. He will break the record against the Giants. Like it will happen. It's just, man, even if he twisted his ankle, dude, I'm gonna be like gasping for air.
His hamstring pulls, like, and those things could happen on the first play of a wild card game. I understand that. I'm not one that's afraid of
could happen in practice.
My point is in meaningless minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like, just think about like
against the Giants, NBA, right? Too, like, man, it's against the Giants. I know it sets up the great storyline, but it also sets up like worst case scenario. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to be like pessimistic here. I'm not trying to like bring down the vibes because I do get it, man. It would solidify him on another level.
I'm so indifferent on it, man. And it sucks too because I got a text. I might even be able to go sit 50-yard line for this game. So if I could see Saquon Barkley break the record in person, it would be fucking one of the best days of my sports fandom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I am so indifferent on the fact that if Nick Sirianni and this team says the starters are not playing, the other thing you have to take into account, man, we had a week 5 bye. I've seen people talk about that today too. It's been forever. Not only, does Jalen maybe need an extra week and maybe get some of these big guys a day and whatever. Week 5 is a fucking eternity ago.
Yeah.
Cam Jurgens, I think I saw a stat today, has played 1,000 snaps since then, or 1,000 snaps on the season.
The offensive line is what I'm truly not concerned, but like,
right.
It's not that Saquon isn't valuable. It's just, God forbid, Lane Johnson go down.
You're not wrong because, yes, exactly. It's not that Saquon's going to have anything happen. It's you're chasing this. Saquon's not going to go for the record unless he's behind the big fellas, right? You're not going to put him at a disadvantage, right?
Right.
So it's not just him. What if one of those 4 or 5 dudes goes down? What if Mailata goes down again? What if Lane twists, like you said? It's just, I don't know. I'm fine if they do it. I'm going to be excited to watch history and cross my fingers we stay healthy till it happens.
If somebody got injured in the game, are we on here next week looking at Nick Sirianni and company and saying, this dude's got to go? I can't believe you let fucking Saquon go out there. You know what I mean? All I'm saying right now is that if they do allow him and something bad does happen, we all got to take that shit on the chin. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? There's no fault here. At the end of the day, if Sirianni lets that man go out there and run the football this weekend, because look what we're having a conversation about today. Right. It is. I get the chills when we talk about it because it is. It's like,
and I think that's a big
Super Bowl, but like Saquon, the best running back ever. Like the best running back season ever.
Thing. Like, man, he's only the 9th back to ever go for 2K plus.
Right.
And then if he breaks the record, like there's a reason it just hasn't been done in 35, 40
There's
years.
A reason Eric Dickerson is shaking in his boots.
Right.
And it's talking shit, dude.
However, again, to just have to be that negative Nancy and that worry man.
Yeah.
Super Bowl, Saquon break the record.
Right.
It ain't fucking close, brother.
I agree. I do agree.
So that's the only thing, but I do agree. I don't want to be scared. If he put it this way, he hasn't really gotten banged up through 17 games. What are the odds he gets banged up, badly in the first half of the Giants game? It's in Philly. It's not on that turf in MetLife. There's a lot of things you can take into account and not have to worry about it. We're going to get the Sixers in just a little while here, man, because they are, what did we say, Scotty? 9-3 in their last 12?
Is that? I got 7-3 in last 10, but you may be right. You may be right.
No, you're 1,000% correct. What I'm saying, the Super Bowl, I'm going to tell you this right now. If Lane Johnson or Saquon Barkley go down, the Super Bowl aspirations are gone.
Yeah.
For me, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it's taking away what I view as the bigger goal. So, but I do agree. Like, TR, you're not wrong. Like, he could go break the record in the first half, stay healthy, and then we go win a Super Bowl, and it's the greatest fucking year in Eagles history. And I'm all for it. I'm indifferent on it. I'm not going to be pounding the table upset if Saquon Barkley's listed as out this Sunday.
I get what TR is saying though, because and you're obviously clarifying the point as well. It's like, what if you don't go for the record and then you don't get the Super Bowl either? So it's like that's the other side as well. It's like if you can just go get that right now, you have something historic from this season that was such a great fucking season so far, man. But I don't know. It comes down to the Super Bowl.
To Craig's point, like context matters. Like, yeah, he could get injured this game and we're freaking out. He could get injured during a practice week. He could get injured in the first drive of a wild card game, and then we're like, injuries happen. You can't be afraid of them. But the reason I say context matters is just comparing it to all sports, man. Like we've talked about it with Dan Campbell and the Lions earlier this year. We talked about it with Nick Nurse and Doc Rivers and the Sixers and Joel. What if it was Joel at the end of the year and he's at 65 points, but the Sixers are up 30, and then he goes and takes an elbow to the face and breaks his face in the final 3 minutes of the game? Are we not freaking out that he was in a meaningless game? Like, that's my point. The word meaningless. This game is meaningless. That's why I won't be mad. However, don't shoot the messenger here, people. I'm for him also going for it. It's okay with me if he wants to go get it.
Because to Craig's point with this comment, man, he could suit up Sunday. He could get ready to go jog out on the field. He could get on the field for the first drive, get injured in that first drive, not get the record, and be injured. And then that is the worst case scenario.
Right.
But yeah, we leave it up to the professionals to make that decision.
Correct.
I do got a question for you. There's been talk about Jalen Hurts. Should he get some reps on Sunday? I know this goes along with the whole conversation. This would be 3 weeks that Hurts goes without playing live football before playoff football. If I'm counting the weeks right, it might be 4 weeks. I don't know if I'm counting it right, but how do you feel about that, man? Obviously, I don't think Hurts is going to play this weekend. Are you worried about it at all, though?
No, I don't put much stock into that. Saw someone else tweet about it earlier. Like, Patrick Mahomes isn't playing this week, and they have a bye. So by the time Patrick Mahomes throws a football in a game again, it's going to be 3 weeks. Not when we're talking injuries and meaningless games and rhythm. Like, Jalen has enough reps and repetition with AJ Brown and these guys to be okay when things matter again. So I'm good.
What about the path?
What's up?
What about the path? How much do you care about the path?
Brother. This is the core of the conversation today, I think, especially with what played out last night. Obviously, the Packers losing. Minnesota and Detroit are going to fight for 1 versus 5. The Falcons end up losing. It puts Tampa Bay back in the postseason. The Rams, I believe, have clinched did the Rams clinch officially the NFC West?
Let me just double check here.
I think the Rams clinched the NFC West, so they're in. Man, I got to tell you, I'm actually very disappointed in our fan base today, or whoever. If you're out there and you're negative about how things are starting to play out now. First of all, we are the class of the NFC. I get we're not the number 1 seed. Let's run through it. One of those teams has Sam Darnold at quarterback. I cannot say this enough. Scotty, I know we have to, I guess, jump on board or jump off the hatership at some point. It's Sam Darnold in an NFC Championship game, potentially. Or it's the Lions, who have more injuries than anyone I can remember contending in a while. Then you have the Eagles, who are complete and will be healthy by that time. That's why I say we're the class. Then let's get to the path, right? Because now with what happened, Green Bay is set up to be the 7 seed versus our 2 seed. We get the Packers for the second time this year. Oh, no, Jordan Love has to come play playoff football here. What are we going to do? Are we talking about the same Green Bay Packer team that is 0-5 on the year against the Eagles, Lions, and Vikings combined, with their probable best win being a walk-off field goal against C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans on the year. We're talking about the same Jordan Love that got dog-walked by Sam Darnold in the biggest game of his career yesterday. Are we talking about that team and that quarterback?
Been dog-walked by Sam Darnold twice this year.
Correct. The team that we already beat when Jalen Hurts turned the ball over 3 times in a different country. Are we talking about that team? Then I'm seeing, oh, well, if we get past the Packers, now the Rams are in the postseason. The fucking Rams? The Rams, who would have to fly across country, whose defense couldn't stop me, you, Gint, D-Rab, TR, Craig. They couldn't stop us. The Rams, who Saquon Barkley ran for over 250 yards on the ground for, that we already kicked the shit out of. I'm scared of that team, or I'm a little worried. Look, I'm not saying all these things and puffing my chest to say that the Eagles can't or won't lose to the Packers, or can't or won't lose to the Rams. But there's like this illusion today that like our road has now become so difficult. You do realize by being the 2 seed now, and I'm not saying it's a positive, you don't get to bye. We have to play a road game potentially in the NFC Championship, but you do realize we avoid the Lions and Vikings until the NFC Championship game. Like you avoid the other 2 best teams in the conference until the NFC Championship game. You get the pickings of
the Bucks.
The Bucks. Here comes the Bucks, who just lost to this Cowboys team a week ago in a must-win game.
The Bucks. No, I don't get it, man. I don't.
If anything, this is the easier path.
Yeah, look, I don't get it.
Green Bay might not be easier than Washington. That's not what I'm trying to say. But this side of the bracket and how the Rams potentially in a second-round matchup in Philadelphia, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah, come on. Rams
how about just have some
matchup is a blessing.
Just have some confidence in your team that has 13 wins.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, man. Looking across at your opponent, like what makes you legitimately scared of the Green Bay Packers? They play very similar to the Eagles. They're just not as good. Do you know what I mean? Like they have a very similar play style. They're just not as good at it. They run the football first, right? It starts with Josh Jacobs. Starts with Saquon, except Jalen Hurts can actually run the football too. And then you look at Jordan Love and his turnovers this season. I 100% wanted the Packers, thought the Packers were going to win yesterday. I laid my money on it. But yesterday did show me a lot, man. Backs on the wall, and you come out and you play like that. I get they came back late in the game, whatever, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
We can run through every scenario if that's what people are like afraid of. Like there's a way to break down how dominant and good this Eagles team has been versus these common opponents and the common opponents of these common opponents and so on and so forth. And you are like, for some reason, shaking in your boots about it. Like you're acting as if we have to play the Lions in the divisional round. That's a path I wouldn't love.
Yeah.
Oh, let's play that team in the divisional round or whatever. No, let's play the Rams defense at home in the divisional round potentially.
If we're running,
I found out, and again,
then we have already lost, man.
I am tired of this illusion of the Green Bay Packers, bro. We talked about it on Turf Talk yesterday. This game told me everything I need to know about the Packers and Jordan Love, at least for this season. If it wasn't enough that head-to-head the Eagles already beat this team, and yes, it feels like a century ago, we ran through the scenario. If they were unable to come up with a big win yesterday against Minnesota, that would put them winless against the 3 best teams in the NFC. They're 0-5 against us, the Lions, and the Vikings, bro. Like, 0-5. They have a win against the Chicago Bears a few weeks ago because they blocked a 35-yard field goal to walk off the game. Like, I don't know what people think this Green Bay Packer team is. You can clip this. You can make whatever hype video you want to make if you're a cheesehead. Before this playoff matchup gets set. I don't give a fuck. I don't know who you think Jordan Love and Tucker Kraft and Jaden Reed and Chris. I don't know who you think
it's not
they
even
are.
Packers fans, though. It's Eagles fans on Twitter that are saying this shit. Like, I'm not even sure the Packers fans are coming out of that game yesterday confident that the Packers can compete with the Eagles. I'm not sure where they're at. I see Eagles fans saying the shit. We got guys in the comments legitimately scared of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you cannot beat Todd Bowles, you are not winning the fucking Super Bowl. Yeah, like, what the fuck? I do get it. I get it. I get the history. I get the Todd Bowles versus Jalen Hurts thing. Right. But, like, come on. Come on. It's a rite of passage. Run through Tampa Bay. Bring them on up to Philly. Come on.
I want to piggyback off of Brian's comment here. This is what I learned yesterday, too. And you know my thoughts on, like, Jaden Daniels.
I do agree with that. I do agree with it.
You know what I took away from this year? I'd rather play Jordan Love than Jaden Daniels in the first round of the playoffs. And I'm not even a Jaden Daniels, like, fucking.
Yeah, I think I would, too, man.
Like, that's what I took away.
I'm pretty sure I would, too. Yeah, like, I don't know.
There was a point in the third quarter that Jordan Love had like 64 passing yards in the biggest game of their season. That's it, brother. But then there's the Washington side of it too. Like, and that's why that fan base like makes me laugh. Like, you do realize you guys beat Michael Penix and the Falcons last night because they just didn't call timeouts with 30 seconds left in each half and then missed a field goal to force over. Like, that's how you guys beat the Falcons and clinch the playoff spot. So all this pumping of the chest from like these other teams and our own fan base being scared of some of these other teams is the craziest fucking thing I'm seeing right now. Bro, like this was, I feel like I'm going nuts as if the Eagles beat the Cowboys 14-10 yesterday.
Mike Parsons. I mean, it was close.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad. Just to calm my nerves, and so we can just get to a much funnier conversation. I mean, like, I don't even know that I mean this with like all due respect. Michael Parsons said, I said this to you before the show. He said what may be legitimately like a top 3 dumbest thing I've ever heard someone say before in my life. And I've met like a lot of stupid people. Like I've heard a lot of dumb things come out of people's mouths in my 26 years of existence. A lot of stupid things. That was the dumbest thing, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And the sad thing is, bro, like he wasn't just trolling. Like I've heard him say a lot of dumb things. This fucking took the cake to come out after a 41-7 thumping. 41-7. Dog, you're acting like you lost 20-13. 41-7. And you told people with a straight face, take away the scoreboard.
Yeah.
The game wasn't that bad. About 4 or 5 plays. Sure. You know, you had the one Saquon run, the slant to Smitty that scored, the AJ. If you take away 3 Eagles touchdowns and take away the 34-point ass shellacking, it's a pretty close game. They made him earn everything on offense. Like that's another thing that he said with a straight face. Outside of those 5 big plays, they made the Eagles earn it. Dog, you do realize you played Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee. So like you think you made the Eagles backup and third string quarterbacks earn everything.
Earned it. How about that, Kenny P and Tanner McKee?
It was a top 3.
No excuses.
Most moronic thing I've ever heard someone say.
And I think this is the point that I
don't want to hear. I promise you, I don't want to hear. I could not handle it.
This is a guy with 13 sacks, 13 and a half sacks, 14 sacks, 9 and a half sacks the last 4 years. And you have people that would not want him on their team, and I think
I couldn't handle this guy. And maybe we wouldn't be in this scenario because of how loaded the rest of our roster is, and we'd be winning. You know, we've lucky enough to see a lot of wins over the last 4 years. Maybe the culture is different, and I don't know. Maybe leadership, everything would be different, and he wouldn't have so many stupid, moronic things to say after wins and after losses. But like this was about the 15th dumb thing he said this year.
He's like an NBA player, but in the NFL.
Like,
do you know what I mean?
Could you imagine in this city after a disappointing season
buddy.
in which we're eliminated from the playoffs and the Dallas Cowboys just did that to us? Could you imagine him in Eagles green sitting in front of reporters and saying that? I'm pretty sure half the city would burn down.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. Tanner McKee next up.
Hey, I'll tell you this. He's the combination of two. Dude, Tanner McKee. Michael Parsons is the combination of two Darius. Like, he's way worse. Way, way, way worse than anything Darius Slay. Someone brought up earlier, bro. I saw the clip of him on his podcast after he was puffing his chest about their Saints win. And remember, he was going back and forth with CJ Gardner-Johnson. And he was like, I don't know who CJ Gardner thinks he is, calling like Derek Carr and the Saints like trash or whatever. He's like Derek Carr has accomplished way more than CJ Gardner has in his career.
Are you talking about Micah?
Yeah. That clip.
I don't pay attention.
That clip resurfaced from earlier in the year.
I don't pay attention to what Michael Parsons says because he's an idiot. But no, I did see this one, and you're exactly right. He is just a bona fide fool. But he just fits the Cowboys. It does, because you got Jerry Jones before the game like laughing about what Eagles fans are saying to him. Like, dog, we're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you. We're clapping at you. And he's just like, oh, la, 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 la. Like, dude, he does not give a fuck at this point. I think he's given up. I think Jerry Jones has given up. He's moving on from the Cowboys, man. Mentally. Maybe not financially, but mentally he's moving on.
That's a good point, Brian. His brother is just as dumb and just as bad. That's another thing that's happened like with professional athletes. There's multiple brothers like of athletes.
It's Dak's brother and Micah's brother, because I'm thinking of Tad. Is that Dak's brother's name?
Yeah.
Tad Prescott or some shit like that.
Yeah. Parsons' brother does it. There's been dads that have come on and like said stuff about their sons. Both Diggs brothers are actually in the NFL, but they've both tweeted about the other quarterbacks. Like,
I actually like Trayvon Diggs more than Stephon Diggs, even though he is on the Cowboys, weirdly enough. But I think he's said similar things as to like Micah Parsons.
Right.
He tries to play buddy, so maybe that's why I have him in favor in my mind. But nonetheless, man, I did want to ask you one more thing before we move to the Sixers. Do you have any preference on who gets the 1 seed?
I'll
tell you, I would rather the Vikings get the 1 seed personally.
I think so.
It is close. Just given Sam Darnold's comfortability at home versus what it may be in Philadelphia versus like a Jared Goff. And the idea with the Lions, I guess, for me, I'm questioning how good are the Lions, with as beat up as they are. Maybe I really am underselling them. But I almost, like, if you would have asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have probably said definitely would rather the Vikings get the 1 seed, face the Lions away from home. But I don't know, I'm kind of gravitating the other way. But right now, I would still stick with that.
Like, the only reason I'm hesitating is because of how wounded the Lions are. So for me, it's like, if you take the Lions out of their comfort, if you take Jared Goff out of there and maybe they beat Minnesota in the second round and then they have to come here and we host them, like, but like, to your point, like, you're giving Sam Darnold home field advantage, but that it just doesn't matter to me, man. Like, give me this fucking give me this shit all over again.
I would love to ruin their lives again. Yeah, that's true. The Vikings.
We already did that once.
Fans are all right, man.
I'd like to do it in their crib, so that's fine with me.
And, who do you like view like Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, man? Like, does Jared Goff is he the scarier opposition?
I'm Scotty, bro. I'm being serious. I don't know.
Like with Justin Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson out there in Minnesota. I don't know. I'm gathering my respect for Minnesota. I am. They are earning it. They have earned it. Yeah, I should say it that way. They have earned my respect
Yes.
as one of the best teams in the NFC. You beat the Green Bay Packers not only in Green Bay the first time, you beat them here when they need a W.
Yeah.
The Green Bay Packers, newsflash to the other Eagles, they don't want to come to Philadelphia either. I'm sure they would rather play the Bucks or the whoever the fuck is in that other division, the Rams. It was interesting to see the way they handled the Green Bay Packers, to see Sam Darnold be more poised than Jordan Love and even some of the other quarterbacks that we've seen Darnold against this year. So they definitely
and I think the way, and I'll give a little bit of flowers as well, because I have not respected them and him the way maybe we should all year long, considering they're 14-2 now. But he's not just doing it with Justin Jefferson. Like the way that he's getting Jordan Addison the ball, and he's getting, he's taking a leap this year.
Was it
just
Naylor
how efficient Darnold's
last
been.
night?
Yeah. So that is something. It's not like it's just the Justin Jefferson show in Minnesota, and if you can find a way to game plan for that, they've been able to do a lot there. I think Green Bay was driving down the field at one point yesterday, and they forced a fumble on Josh Jacobs, and that kind of flipped the game. I think Minnesota went right down and scored off of that. So they're opportunistic as well. Brian Flores' defense. So it's interesting. I think I still say Minnesota, but I don't know. But the good news is, man, those two teams would have to meet in the divisional round before we would get them. Right. So either way, we can kind of just root for the 5 seed.
Yeah, it might not matter.
To get to the championship, so that way we host it. So it's not the biggest. Yeah, it's not like the biggest deal in the world where it's just this absolute run we're on where we have to go on the road in the NFC Championship game. We don't know that yet, so we're gonna find out.
And to this point, I don't think it's like defense, like the opposing defense that like really worries me. I think it comes down to the opposing offenses that we're going to end up playing. I'm not trying to sound super cocky about this team, but like I don't know. I just don't have any concerns offensively outside of the Eagles beating themselves. I don't see any defense really shutting this Eagles offense down. So I guess I just don't get concerned with the level of defensive play, but I would agree Minnesota's defense is better. It just comes down to like the offensive weapons. Like if the Vikings are going to Justin Jefferson, consistently throughout a game, is he going to kill us enough to win them that football game? Amon-Ra on the other side, Jahmyr Gibbs on the other. So I'm just thinking about the weapons, and maybe it's all the same, right? Maybe they're both just really good offenses, and it doesn't really matter. You're just going to get who comes your way, but. Yeah, man, I think you left it in a good spot. Let's just root for whoever ends up with that 5 seed. If they even make it to that matchup, right? The Vikings get to the 5 seed. I'm not saying they will lose to the Rams or the Bucks, but they could. Like, it could happen. So we'll see.
Agreed. Should we transition? Should we talk about?
Yeah. Let's talk about them 6s.
Should we talk about that team that's 9 of their last 12 in the W category, 12-17 on the year? I know it's still visually is ugly. When you look at the standings, when you see the numbers, they look ugly on paper, but things are going in the right direction. Joel Embiid, as much as I ripped him for playing against Charlotte and not Cleveland and yada yada, is starting to play on a little bit more of a consistent basis. That knee seems to be healing properly after each game. He looks quicker out on the floor. Him and Maxey out in Utah. He does, bro. You're finally starting to see that offseason come through a little bit. Joel goes for 32. Maxey goes for 32. And I just, again, think that's the biggest thing, bro. Them too. Like Paul George is like a piece that we need to shoot better. He's going to do a lot of little things. He rebounds, everything like that. Play makes, etc. The 3-point numbers
5 steals
have to be better. But
Joel
and Maxey.
Can I say something?
1,000%
about Paul George. The comparisons to Tobias Harris. I see him all over, man. He guards the other team's best player. Tobias never did that, man.
It's not even that, bro. Like, I'm not Scotty. Like, don't get me wrong, dude. It's not pretty right now. He's 4 for 11 the other night, but he's 2 for 5 from 3. Like, it's not what we need Paul George to be right now. But like, people are starting to make these comparisons. Less than 30 games into the Sixers season, and he's only played a handful of those. And it's like the dude just shot over 40% from 3 last year.
Yeah.
He's a career like 40% 3-point shooter. I'm just going to choose to believe that Paul George is going to start shooting the ball more consistently. Yeah, he might not be averaging 20, 22 points per game this year for you, like maybe we were expecting. But if the 3-point shooting numbers continue, if the playmaking continues, if the rebounding continues, if everything else continues, having Maxey and Embiid doing what they're doing is the focal point of the offense. And I think that's in the last 2 games, in these last 2 wins, I love how fluid they look together on the floor again. I love how easy it is. It's not just give one the ball, isolation. It's just them working together, feeding off of each other, and no one can stop it, bro. Like, if these two are averaging 60 together, over 60 together, good luck with what's coming. So, very excited, to say the least. And Gershon Yabusele just continues to do Gershon Yabusele things off the bench, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I just I agree with everything you said about Maxey and Embiid. I think the one thing I could ask the Sixers to do is maybe just try to get a game where maybe you're giving Paul George a few extra looks.
I think it'll come. I think it'll come.
I think they should make more of an assertion in a sense. Like, last game, he only has 11 shots. So like, we can sit here and complain about him not producing. He only shot the ball 11 times. Right. Which a lot of those threes, like Maxey,
I would just ask you this. Does that have anything to do with trying to establish Joel now? You know what I mean? Like, Joel's just getting back.
I'm sure that's part of it.
So most nights Joel's going to take over 20 shots anyway. But there's more of a focal point for Joel now, just to get him back into a rhythm more quickly. And then as time goes on, maybe there's a night Joel has 18 shots and Paul has 15 shots, and it's a little bit more down the middle. But
maybe this is what Paul George wants to do. I don't know. We're not in the locker room with him. Like, maybe he goes out there and he tells Maxey and Embiid, like, go ahead, like, do you guys thing. This is y'all's team. I'm gonna fill in and fit in wherever you need me to. And that's kind of what it's looked like so far. There's been a few games where he's taken, he's went out of his way to kind of make something happen offensively. But aside from that, I just love his activity, man. He's so smooth. It's something that I've always loved about his game. Just getting in the passing lanes, getting his hands in places where other players just don't even think. He's a very, very smart defender. To TR's point, very, very physical and long. And I like having like a prolific type of player that is willing to guard the best player on the opposing team as well, man. I like having that like identity, that personality in a player. So Caleb Martin, this was an interesting game though against the Jazz. You look at Caleb Martin, didn't produce like against the Celtics, right? So you'd like to see a little more consistency there. Kelly Oubre maybe in a little bit of a slump right now, just trying to find his spots as well.
I think that's what it is, man. You're just getting the three playing consistently together. Yeah. So now it's figuring out what works. And you got to remember, this team is still, in a sense, shorthanded, right? Like, Drummond has essentially been out since Embiid's made his return full time. KJ Martin, who was a pretty big role player for us the last couple of weeks, has been out the last 2 or 3 games. You lost McCain a few weeks ago. Lowry and Eric Gordon. So, I mean, you had Reggie Jackson playing 15 minutes each night the last 2 games, which isn't consistent. So, they're just working through things, trying to get this core acclimated. So I think it'll come in Portland tonight, brother. And then in Sacramento on New Year's Day, they just fired their head coach. De'Aaron Fox is trying to get his way out of Sacramento, according to Shams. You get Brooklyn on Saturday with Golden State mixed in. We said it before, 4-1. They're 1-0 now, 4-1. That still remains the goal. That would go a long way into this season, taking a very quick 180 for me.
This is another situation though coming up this week where I'm very curious how the Sixers handle it, man. You got Golden State on Thursday. You got the Kings on Wednesday. Which team do you think you need Joel Embiid more to beat? It's the team on Thursday. So go out, let Embiid sit on Wednesday if that's what you need to let happen, and play him against the Warriors on Thursday, man. I think you can beat the Kings without him, quite honestly. So that'll be interesting to see kind of how they play around that. But I do ultimately agree with you. This is their chance to get right in the season. You got to have a stretch here where you win a number that doesn't feel realistic, but then all of a sudden it happens. I'm talking like 8 wins in a row, 9 wins in a row. And I think this is a stretch right here where they can put on some really impressive performances and get themselves back into the good standing of the Eastern Conference. They're only 4 games back of like the 7 seed right now. So this stretch could literally flip their season back right the way it's supposed to. To Brian's comments earlier, man, about D'Lo. D'Lo wouldn't be my first choice. I get it. He's a buyout. It'd probably be cheaper. Wouldn't be my first choice just because of a culture type of thing. I don't like his personality personally, but I do think you go after another guard in the market, whether it's trade, free agency, whatever. I do think with McCain going down, we've seen what Eric Gordon looks like. We've seen Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson's solid for regular seasons, sure. Kyle Lowry, we've seen. We're gonna need another guard in the rotation, man.
Yeah, I agree. Lonnie Walker's name's been thrown around.
That is fair, right there. That is fair, Brian. Draymond. See, I don't know if we want him on the same court as Draymond, but Lonnie Walker, I would be very much with that. I'd be very much with that.
Yeah, I saw.
Didn't understand why he wasn't picked up.
He would probably still play Kyle Lowry over him. Lowry's been fine the last couple of games. I don't know. It does suck, because you envision one of the two panning out. And if neither are panning out, now you have another spot to fill, especially if Reggie Jackson's not really the long-term solution you want there either. We'll see. We'll continue to monitor. The most important thing is that you continue to stack wins. You said 4 games. No, they're 3.5 games out of the 6 and 7 seed together. So with the Bucks and the Heat being those 2 teams, something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Late night, man, in Portland. So we hope they grab the dub. Yes, I think that's going to do it for this Victory Monday edition of the Phaithful Fanatics Show. We will be back. Well, we'll have to see Wednesday. We got we moved past Wednesdays for the time being, so we're good. See you guys Thursday for Turf Talk, Friday for some more Phaithful Fanatics and Sixers and Eagles talk, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the new year. So, guys, for myself, Happy for Scotty, for DSM, subscribe, follow, like the video, whatever you got to do. Help yourself, help us. Have a great rest of your night.